Welcome back to another episode of CaCo Talks. We are your hosts, Catelyn and Courtney, and tonight we are talking about the much needed breaks from social media. Hello, everyone. We hope that you are having a happy Friday. Today, we are talking about how we are personally in need of a social media break. So we figured we would come on here and give a little spiel about why you should take breaks from social media and just how I guess social media affects you on the daily or your mental health, if you will. So Courtney, you want to give just a little context of how we got started on this topic?
Yeah, well, I guess if I give context, then I got to go into my personal life.
No, just real surface level. Real surface level.
Well, I'll say I was discussing some life tribulations I was having, Catelyn. That's pretty surface level. And Catelyn was like, and I was saying, I don't know if you brought it up or if I brought it up, but I was like, you know what? I find myself at times when I'm scrolling through Instagram, I just find myself feeling like I'm not doing enough. I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's it affects me. And so I feel like my negative self-talk increases from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you were suggesting, you were like, well, have you thought about just detoxing from social media? And and that was the first time I thought about it until when you said it. And I really had never thought that I would need to necessarily step away from social media, because I always thought, you think I'm aware enough. I know that this social media is a health concern, a mental health concern, and that it can negatively impact you. I'm aware of these facts, but you don't realize how much it creeps into your life.
Yeah.
And I will admit, I am a frequent social media user, and I do use it frequently, specifically for art purposes. And I have a side account, which I use frequently too, just for funsies,
Mm-hmm.
But and I was like, I really be on there pretty regularly, so I don't. It's I give it. It's a part of my life much more than I give it credit for.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of got to the idea of just going on a detox, just staying off of it,
Mm-hmm.
which I have never done before, not seriously,
Yeah. So okay, I have a question for you. So how long do you think the break should be?
Well, I think your suggested month is good, but I'm thinking about possibly going even longer.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I think it's helpful for me. I use social media, like I said, mostly for artistic purposes, to share artwork, and it's a really good place to have all my most recent stuff lodged, to put in one place. Because I can't tell you how many times I've been I met someone and I'm like, oh, I'm also a filmmaker, writer, director, and they're like, what's your Instagram? So it's it's really great for that purpose, just to be able to quickly give that to people so they can see your stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So professionally and artistically, it actually is sort of a necessity at this point. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
But and then even when I reach out to if I submit to film festivals, or if I submit to magazines or whatever, anything I submit to, they always ask for your Instagram at this point. So professionally, I do keep it for that reason. And then some of the stuff the past film festival that Clout was in, I was engaging with them on Instagram and sharing some of their stuff when they would mention Clout on the internet. So I don't want to, I feel like I'm tied to it now, just artistically, but I do think it's good for me. The issue with me is I scroll and look at other people's lives, which I think a lot of people do. So, but yeah, what about you?
Well, see, I used to actually take a bunch of social media breaks because I knew the damage that it was causing and could cause. So I've always kind of done it, but I haven't done it in a while since I moved to to where I live now.
Yeah.
So I am going to do it again. It really does, like the times that I've done it, because I've done it probably like 3 or 4 times now. It has really been beneficial. Like it really allows you to just kind of like tune in with yourself, not compare yourself to others, not want things that other people have just because they have it and it looks nice that they have it. It allows you just kind of figure out what you really want and what you really enjoy, what you don't really enjoy, and those types of things. So I know that you have like a platform and you post and things like that for the various accounts that you have to interact with people. But to like kind of combat that, I would like schedule my posts when I had the one that I kind of had to keep active, my one account I had to keep active. And I would schedule my posts for however long I would take my little break. And I would completely detox. The only thing I would continue to use was probably YouTube. But
Yeah.
other than that, I would get rid of TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram.
I hear that. I definitely think I didn't realize TikTok was seeping into my thought processes more than I was giving it credit for, because I'm not gonna lie, TikTok sucks you in more than any of the other apps, I think.
Yeah, they're so quick,
They're so quick. And then like I genuinely, the content that I see on TikTok is like tailored for you. So you really are interested in it. And so you're more willing to sit there and watch and watch and watch and watch and watch. And I'm like, sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'm like, let me just get on TikTok real quick, scroll a couple minutes.
Right.
I'm doing
And then
it
it
for
comes to
2 or 3
an hour.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Quickly.
And it really is, I don't know what kind of special algorithm sauce they put in their thing, but like TikTok will suck you in so quick.
Oh, for sure.
So quick.
100%.
And I realized that like TikTok gets me more like angry and anxious about the world that we live in, because so many people, it's like, because so many people are sharing their experiences, and they have a right to share their experiences. They're sharing their experiences, positive or negative, you know what I mean? And I'm like, and when people share those negative experiences, it's like, is this going to happen? What about that?
Yeah, that's true.
And it like makes you a little more on, it's like a heightened sense of being on edge.
Yeah, it's kind of like ignorance is bliss. Like what you don't know doesn't hurt you.
Yeah,
You
in
can
some
live a
ways.
happier. Yeah, in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely need to protect yourself, but the reality is when you see 5 people back to back saying similar, negative experiences, it's like, is this happening to everybody? You know what I mean? So it creates a sense in your head of like, or you just have this heightened idea of something's going wrong or whatever. And that can prevent you from doing things that you really need to do.
Agreed. So, yeah. No, I definitely, and I think let alone that, like TikTok is also very like captivating in the sense that it's very short little like clips. So you're watching these videos all day. And so it makes your attention span a lot worse. So like outside things that are not that short and quick and easy, it makes harder to like sit there and comprehend like basic things like reading a book. It makes it difficult to do the basics. So.
Yeah, and I also realized that like yesterday, a lot of times while I'm out driving, I will like scroll through TikTok while I'm at a stoplight, or like I just scroll through TikTok and just listen to it. And I was like, this is, first off, that's dangerous. So I really shouldn't be doing that. But then number 2, I'm like, I cannot be this entrenched. Like, I'm using it as a form. Yeah, it's like a form of entertainment. And I like, but it's other people's lives. That
I agree. Like literally when I don't have like a podcast episode where I'm at work, I'll just like scroll through TikToks listening to like the audio. And it's like, first of all, like there's no way I can pay attention to both. And it just becomes like, I find that I'm also probably like less productive because I'm like trying to scroll and pay attention, not pay attention to something that like captivates my attention kind of thing. And it's like, babes, it's not that serious.
Oh yeah,
it's not.
TikTok was ill. I mean, it's educated me on so much. Like I've learned so much just being on TikTok. I'm not gonna lie. Like I think I'm a more educated person. Like,
but the thing is that even that you have to take with a grain of salt, because it's like people are telling you what they want you to know.
That's true too. But I will say it exposed. Okay, I mean education in the sense that it exposed me to more experiences. That's what I mean. Not so much that it's like whether people are right or wrong. Yes, that's what people want to know, and that's their perception of whatever events that happen in their life. But it exposed me to the breadth of experiences people can have.
Yeah.
Which is a form of, educating, because if you only think like this is the way life is and this is how you live, then that one experience is how you perceive things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
So, and it helped. I mean, in some ways, it helped me to call a thing, because I was like, okay, other people are also having these experiences. So this is probably what this is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then it also offers the alternate perspective on things as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's been valuable in at least knowing that these things exist. Now it's OD because of the algorithm and how they present the information. You can get sucked into it very easily. But I would say TikTok is the app that I have learned the most from. Like, if any social media app has taught me more information, it's TikTok.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. And it's not so much like book smart. It's not like it's things I could not have learned in school. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You say it's like the things that you either have to experience, or that like those life lessons that your parents would theoretically teach you. But, in some ways, your parents can't even necessarily teach you because they don't know what you need to know in some ways. You know what I'm saying? So,
seriously, yeah.
TikTok, oddly, in a weird way, fills in some of those gaps. That makes sense?
Yeah.
At least it has when I have scrolled through it, because I see a lot of other young women, like, who are going through life and, like, explaining things that have happened to them and, like, their experiences and what that means. And it's like, it's called, it's like, I don't know, I'm going to mess up the word, but it's like community knowledge. Does that make sense? Like, there's a community of people sharing their experiences. So we like collective learning. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of a form of that, I think.
I guess. I always just take it with like a grain of salt, because I'm just like, I like hear that, I hear your perspective, but I think that, like, because that happened to you, or that is your reality, that doesn't mean that it has to be mine. Because of, different circumstances, different environments, different people around, and XYZ. Do I think it makes you a little bit more cautious? Possibly, but I never thought about it like that. Like, I don't really see it as like a learning platform, just because, like, it's people's opinion, interpretations, experiences that are probably vastly different from mine,
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's how you take it too. Like, some of it I do just pass on, but others of it I'm like, I didn't know that this perspective existed, so I listen. And it's not that I always take it to heart and like apply it to my life, but it's like, this is the alternate. This is a way of looking at things.
Got it.
Yeah. And I think it also helps me, because when I go to write things, it's like I'm always writing somebody else's perspective. Because would I necessarily do the things that I'm putting in this story? No. I would probably make different decisions, but it's like my task, self-initiated, but it's like I have to write this from somebody else's experience.
Yeah.
So the best thing I can do to learn other people's experiences is listen to it.
Yeah, that's true. So what platforms would you be taking a break from, if any?
Well, definitely TikTok for sure. TikTok, probably Instagram. And I don't really be on Twitter too much anymore. I used to as a teenager, but probably also just Twitter. Like, why not? The only thing I think I'm gonna continue in a very limited capacity is Facebook, and it's only because I look up different Facebook groups, and that's how I learn about like industry events and things like that. So I go to specific pages for that. But honestly, I haven't really scrolled through Facebook in a long time anyway. So like that's not gonna be a hard one to get rid of necessarily.
Yeah. Okay.
I think what will be difficult for me is the first thing I think to do is when I have some new work or something happens artistically or something, like my first impulse is Instagram to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's so like second nature to me now because I've been doing it for so many years. I started doing it in college,
Yeah.
so that's always my first impulse. So I think that will be difficult to just like hold on to
Mm-hmm.
the developments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
But I think that will like allow you to like rely on other sources, like instead of like solely relying on social media to get you to where you want to be, like finding
mhm,
other sources, like what other maybe media
reaching out to
sources can I
actual
use?
people.
Yeah, actual people. What media sources can I use? Like,
Mhm,
maybe reaching out to, this is just like a oddball example, but like a news reporter, you know what I mean? Those kinds
mhm,
of things. And so then that way you are building, first of all, a rapport for your project, but a rapport for yourself and a
mhm.
rapport with these people.
Yeah, that. And I also realized I was like, I think we take for granted, like, we think the only way to get your stuff out there is to like just somehow go viral immediately or something. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we also take for granted that like the old school methods of just like reaching out to people individually as people and like reaching out, you know what I mean? Like reaching out cold
Mm-hmm.
emails or reaching out like physically showing up or like calls or whatever. Those methods are still very much alive and still very much like useful
Yeah.
methods. Because everybody wants like a viral moment and it's like, oh, I'll just put this out and then like wait and see what numbers or whatever. And I
Mm-hmm.
just think more often than not, it's that old school method of building an audience or building a followership or whatever, versus just going viral. No, there are people who just look up and go viral, like, but
Very interesting. Yeah, I think I'm going to also cut out. I don't really use Twitter, so that's not really a thing. But I'm
mm,
going to cut out definitely Instagram and TikTok and probably Facebook because I use my little scheduler or whatever. But
mm,
I don't really get on Facebook to like scroll or anything like that, so it really won't be that big of a deal. Um, but yeah, no, TikTok is the death of me. TikTok and freaking Instagram, which I
yeah.
wasn't always like big on Instagram, but
I used as a kid, I was not in like when I first started Instagram. I was 17 or 18 before I started Instagram, and it had been out for many years by that point. So I was skeptical as a kid, but when I discovered its usefulness for my artwork, that's when I was like, oh, okay, now I have an end to this. Otherwise, if
mm-hmm.
it wasn't for that, I don't think I would even really be. I don't think I ever would have attached to it because I was very social media free.
Very true.
Like growing up, I was always skeptical of social media. Now I'm thinking about it. Even as a little itty bitty, I was like, what is this? Facebook, you know?
Yeah, but I think also too we weren't allowed to have
Yeah, you're right.
a lot of these. I think basically the majority of when we were growing up, it was mainly Facebook for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
then Instagram came later on, probably like more into high school for
Yeah, middle
us,
school, high
maybe.
school. Yeah.
Yeah, middle school, high school. But Instagram wasn't what it is now then.
Well,
So
yeah,
it was
social
like,
media culture has taken. Social media culture is the culture.
yeah, for real. Yeah.
It really is.
Facebook was like, obviously, like, it started out as like the kid thing to do, have a Facebook and like chat with your friends and XYZ.
Yeah.
And then, Instagram was really about like sharing pictures with the people that you were really close with. Like, that's really what it
Mhm.
was. It wasn't, or not even close with, but the people that like were in your immediate vicinity. It wasn't like following the Kardashians or following the,
Mhm.
Prince of Egypt or anything like that. Like, that just wasn't a thing then. So,
Yeah. It was in its infancy. It was just very like avant garde, kind of like obscure.
yeah.
But at a certain point, it just caught on, and that was obviously worldwide. But
Hmm.
um, it was. I hate to say it, but I think it's more associated with toxicity now than even necessarily being positive.
Oh, for sure. I'd venture
Like,
to say.
you know, so and it's not their fault. They created something. I think it's really innovative that they created these. applications, you know. And
Oh
they were
yeah, but I
obviously,
mean, I don't think that was the intended purpose from the get go.
I know
Obviously
it was
not.
definitely. I mean,
So
nobody's like, yeah, let's make something that's gonna drain mental health by like, you know, in droves. So I think obviously it was intended for good, but unfortunately it has morphed. I think that people have in some ways morphed it.
oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
Users, but then also them continuing to make capital off of it. They continue to, you
Hmm.
know, they
Yeah,
morph their platform as well to fit this like landscape, this new landscape. So it's this like oddly toxic symbiotic relationship, you know?
yeah. And, like I do think it's like what you use it for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is like I think at this point it's very difficult to separate into like, am I going to use this for positive or not? Because no matter, I guess it also depends on who you're following, but a lot of the consumption is just drama, So
That
it really is. Which, like I said, it depends on who you're following. But like, I mean, if you're following any social media, most social media people, um, I mean, there is some level of just like drama, comparing yourself, trying to keep up with things, maybe that you aren't or that you don't even really like, just
mm-hmm.
because that's like the cool thing to do. So, I mean, if you, it's not even fathomable to not be influenced by those things.
Oh, agreed. I mean, I think we really witnessed in our lifetime just a massive cultural shift due to social media.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I mean, there's whole personalities, personas, and people who have built entire brands, images, aesthetics around the
Mm-hmm.
internet.
Yeah.
Which actually, that's what most of my artwork is about, is like internet culture and how it's like morphed people in different ways. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what Clout's about. But so it's really fascinating to me, and I think it's because I lived life the first 15 to 17 years of my life really just living as a human being, and it's like it was like before social media and after social media, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we had like a really grounded concept of like being people and just existing and whatever. But
Yeah.
then we now it's like it's really this other world that nobody predicted. Nobody could have predicted this.
True.
You know?
Very true. Yeah. No, because we were at the. I feel like we were like in the prime of like the technology era of like the transition from like a more modern computers that you have in your everyday home to like we
Mhm.
had dial up to Wi-Fi, we had like
Mhm.
the AOL Messenger to like texting was like became huge.
Mhm.
We even came from like texting to like FaceTime and iPhones and all
Yeah.
that cool stuff, and we
You saw all
went
those
through.
transitions.
Yeah, we went through a lot of the transitions with technology in the latter years, and even with like the transition from like I guess like what Facebook used to be to what Facebook is today, what
Mhm.
Instagram was until what Instagram is today, even like TikTok. Like for a while, I refused to get a TikTok because I saw how like addictive it was.
Mhm.
And the only reason why I got one is because there was somebody that worked with me used to always send me TikToks, and I could never view them without having like the TikTok app or whatever. So that's how I ended up getting a TikTok.
Mhm.
And like sometimes like not. I mean, I do regret it quite a bit because it's just like, oof, I spent a lot of my time on there.
Yeah. It's also like I will say, I mean, the benefit of like us seeing this technological shift is I feel like we're very critical of like because of we know how we knew like what life was before. I feel like things transitioned, and we were growing up at the time and becoming more aware at the time. We were always sort of like on the outside, like what's really happening. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And um, yeah, I don't know. It's like what kills me is like Instagram to me used to just be straight up just a platform to share like oh, your family, whatever, like whatever. And now
Yeah.
I feel like people use it strictly as like a dating service.
Oh yeah, that too.
Bizarre to me. I was like, when did this happen? Because there's like all these rules surrounding if your girl has an Instagram or if your guy has an Instagram and if they like so and so's picture. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, that seems so invasive to me. Like that kind of thing is like I'm putting this out as one thing, and then you're taking and assuming that because I'm putting this picture out that I must be this type of person, or like
Yeah.
that stuff has gotten to me like a little bit too far because like we got to have some like media literacy because just because something is put out doesn't mean that or you perceive it one way doesn't mean that's what it's intended to be, and like even I think that level we've gotten too invasive into people's lives and making assumptions and and it's based off of what we think this is and like what we've heard and all, and it's like it's just too much.
Oh, for sure. No, I completely agree. It doesn't have to be that,
No, it doesn't. It's morphed into that because I guess the culture has like shifted so much that people assume, like I said, if you're on Instagram or whatever, then you must be trying to get attention or you must, you know what I mean? And I just think that is so false from what it originally started out. Like I still use Instagram for why it originally started, just to share stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm like, when did it morph into attention seeking? I don't like. And
I don't even use it for that. Like I don't post at all. Like I use it kind of like to catch up with it. And honestly, a lot of the reason why I use Instagram now is to kind of like get topics for us to talk about with the podcast and stuff like that. But I think, because in the beginning we didn't really use social media to find topics. We just kind of like came up with things that we thought that were like would be interesting to talk about. And I think getting back to that would definitely do us like a solid because we have like not heavily been relying on like finding outside things to find content. But I think in that sometimes you kind of like it becomes like, what should we talk about? And it's like, we have like an entire list of things that we want to talk about, and we constantly are like, oh well, we'll find something off of social media. So
yeah, that too. I hear that. You do get oddly reliant on it.
Oh yeah,
and I have to say, there's certain things. If it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have found out about like certain opportunities and like certain and I've been able to connect with people. That's the only thing I'm like concerned about is like, okay, if I'm not gonna be on social media, am I gonna be able to connect with people like like on like jobs or basically through social media, keeping in touch with people, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I will have to say, like, the way I use it mostly for its positive, and I try to keep that line, the through line going there. But it seeps in other really negative ways,
Very true.
It's like
I think though, like I enjoy the like the past way of doing things in that you go out and you seek I guess not what's the word for it like a relationship, whatever the relationship looks like, through like going to talk with somebody, going to like meet up with somebody and going, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I value that. Like there is even like, I guess like I've seen like a little bit of a movement for people who will have, will enter, like, I guess switch between having a old flip phone where you don't have access to social media and, or all of these like apps and stuff. And they'll like switch between their flip phone and then like their iPhone. When they just need a break from like their iPhone and like the constant go, everything's right there on your fingertips kind of thing. And I was like, bro, I really want to do that too. Like, I feel like that's also another thing that ties in with like the social media thing is like, you have this iPhone and you're expected to always be on go because it's right there on your fingertips. It's like literally a computer in your hands. And so there's like, it's like, I have no problem. I can check my Instagram, I can check my email, I can check my work email, I can do all of these things all at once, just sitting here.
Yeah.
Versus if you have like a flip phone.
It speeds up your life. It does. Hectic anxiety to it, I would say.
Yeah. It causes you to just like have this concept of like I have to do all the time. Versus like
Yeah.
if you have like a regular flip phone, for example, there's only so much you can do in that. Like you pretty much are limited to basic communication.
Yeah.
And so the phone becomes basic communication. And when you're not able to access like apps like social media, for example, or like work emails and stuff like that, then you really have to like cut that off.
Yeah. I agree. I saw that somewhere. People were like going back to flip phones
Mm-hmm.
just to decompress from, social media. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I hear that. I really do hear that. And I think that that is definitely useful, like, to decompress because it removes everything that social media has gotten into. It's like, I guess this is like the age old question. It's like Frankenstein. You can make this creation, i.e., social media, but what are the ramifications? No one knows the
Yeah,
ramifications until you start living with it.
seriously.
You never really know. And it's always, you might have a good, but you got other bads. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
So sometimes returning to basics is not like, that's useful. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely, I saw that and I was like, you know what? That is something I should really look into because it is getting to be a lot, you know? And
Seriously.
I
No,
definitely
I've
find
been
it
looking into it too.
fair.
And I imagine it probably is cheaper, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming flip phones got to be what, like $100 now, if that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, yeah.
But
Probably can pay cash for it.
seriously. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna deny the power that having access to emails and texting and having my phone. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it wasn't for social media and like, I would not be able to be the like functioning working artist that I am now. I wouldn't be
Uh-huh.
able to do it because I meet a lot of the actors through the internet, or like I meet people. Like, so much comes about through the internet. So I'm not even knocking its negativities.
Yeah.
I mean, knocking its positives, but you gotta put you gotta rein it in,
Uh-huh.
you know? And I think that is really good that you just mentioned that I should probably just detox and just really like step away for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So,
You
not to
know?
get too personal on you, but like, what do you hope to take away from this time of like removing yourself from social media, or like, what are you looking to maybe gain um, from this hiatus?
Um, well, I don't think that's too personal, but I think, well, what I'm trying to do is I want to clear my own space so I can move forward. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I was doing a little too much of when I see other people's lives progressing, it makes me feel like mine isn't progressing enough. And I want
Mm-hmm.
to clarify and say that I'm not a jealous, envious, hateful person. I celebrate people's successes because they deserve it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I really do genuinely, I like to get online and see that people are succeeding and doing really great things. It
Yeah.
motivates in some ways. But I think I was getting to the point where I was like, it feels like it's never enough because I didn't do that exactly, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't have this by this certain time, or look, they're my age and they're doing this. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, unfortunately, they're celebrating that also brings in the creeping negative thoughts. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I agree.
I want to clear that because there's no way you cannot reach your full potential being concerned about somebody else. You really can't. So I really want to that's my main goal, is to do what I can to clear my mind so I can move forward at this stage in my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's where I'm at, is like I've been sort of plateaued for a little bit, just like collecting my thoughts and feelings and ideas and whatever. And now I just want to, like, you know, I don't know if I step off the cliff, but like move. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I feel that. That's fair.
And I think so. Removing social media from my like day to day life and really just focusing on myself and focusing on like the tasks that need to get done in my life at the moment. That will like I think that'll help recenter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So But
Love
yeah.
that. Okay. I don't really know what I like want to gain out of this. Like, I think more of just like peace and like groundedness and like what I want and what I hope to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also too, it will provide me a lot um, of time, you know, because I find myself on social media quite a bit these days, especially TikTok. Um, and I mean, I can't even count how much I'm on there, but I know it's likely not a healthy amount. So I hope to get sanity back, time back, um, myself back, if you will. Um, and like use those things for other things, you know, like I enjoy doing like puzzles, I enjoy doing word searches. Like I can use that time for things that are going to not make my brain turn into mush, but like, you know, strengthen my brain, because your brain is a muscle, it has to be exercised. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like that time that you would use otherwise kind of like drained just watching content or whatever is actually time you could be productive. Like I will say, and I actually have slowed down on social media recently. I don't know if you noticed, because you watch my Instagram a pretty good bit,
yeah.
but I don't be on my artist account, especially. I don't really be. I might retweet something, but I don't be on there as much as I used to be. Not nearly as much as I used to be. But yeah, I've noticed that whenever I start doing something, I start focusing on a project or something, my screen time goes down drastically. Like
Yeah, true.
drastically, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you get those little Apple notifications telling you what your screen time is.
Oh yeah, yeah, I get them, and I'm like every week I'm like, ooh, girl, got to do
Right?
better.
It used to be like 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and I'm like, when do I
Dang,
sleep?
girl. And first of all, I'm like, how? Like it just doesn't seem that long, because I guess I'm scrolling all
Mm-hmm.
day. But it's like, that is ridiculous. Honestly, that is
Mm-hmm.
literally ridiculous.
Yeah, but when I
And
really
that
start
like that time could
focusing
be
on that,
used for so many other things. Honestly.
agreed. And I mean, I'm just thinking, like, obviously we didn't really experience life like in the 90s or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm thinking that back then there was just like people must have been less anxious because they were processing into things slowly,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
there was nobody's life to even consider but your own in some ways. So
Mm-hmm.
like however long it took for you to do XYZ is like just how long it took. There was no anxiety surrounding that. Whereas
Seriously. And I
now I
think
think
also
there's
too,
anxiety
there was no
surrounding
like comparison, like good or bad. Like there was no one being like, okay, say I'm going to the supermarket and there
it.
was
Mhm.
um I don't know, maybe there was an accident on the way. The only way you would know that was through like the news. So the news would be the person reporting that. But if you didn't tune into the news, then you're going, you know, out in the world, happy go lucky. And if something happens, you're like, you know, you deal with it at that moment. But you didn't have this like preconceived thing of like, oh, there's an accident now, I'm going to be late or I'm going to be running. And like it causes, you know what I mean? Like it just causes you
Mhm.
to go kind of like down a rabbit hole of like, okay, maybe I need to find another way. But then maybe there's an accident that way. And maybe other people are driving that way too.
Yeah.
So it just like sends you down this rabbit hole of like,
It's like paralyzing. It's
yeah.
paralyzing anxiety to the point
Mm-hmm.
where it's like not really. It's stuff that theoretically probably won't even happen to you, but
Yeah.
it's like it becomes
But it's
paralyzing
put
because
on
you're
your
like, what
radar.
if? Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
what if, and we're consuming so many what ifs all the time. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we get news 10,000 times faster than what it was back then. You know what
Oh
I mean?
yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
as soon as it happens, it's right there. Or even if it's not an actual news outlet, somebody recorded it.
Oh yeah.
So you see
Yeah.
that it happened. And it's like, really, it's like it's like afraid to step out into the world, because if you do step out
Oh
into the
yeah.
world, it's like the world it seems like social media to you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's very, it's the word I guess I would use is paralyzing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really does. I have
Mhm.
you probably don't know this, but my favorite quote of all times is "Ignorance is bliss." Right? It's in a song,
Mhm.
which I know somebody else. This is somebody else's quote, but it's in a song that I listened to frequently growing up. But um, not knowing things definitely creates a happier environment, a happier mind.
In some ways.
In some ways, I think personally in all ways, because I think there is a level of cautiousness that not knowing, or that knowing things provides you, but it does make you move very differently and more cautiously and make different choices. So with you not knowing a lot of things, just kind of like a child, they're able to move very differently in the world, more free in the world, because they don't know a lot of things. They don't understand a lot of things, versus if they understood that at an early age, that is what an adult is. Very sometimes guarded, very anxious, very cautious, very whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So social media is kind of like the same thing. Without it, it does you a solid, but with it also does you a solid. So it's like a double-edged sword.
Yep.
So I have another question for you. I have a lot of questions today, clearly. So okay, say you had a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And growing up in the world that we live in currently, obviously with social media, phones, technology is just very rampant in our world, right? You can't even go to preschool without a damn tablet. So
yeah.
What would you do with your child? Just say you have 3 kids. You have a 5-year-old, you have a 10-year-old, and you have a 16-year-old. Are we allowing them to have social media?
Well, obviously there's gonna be different things for different kids due to ages.
Yeah. So the reason why I gave you those age ranges is because I want you to kind of specify what each age range is how you go about navigating. Yeah, for each age range.
I think. Well, let's start with the baby first. So obviously that's going to be probably the most restrictions, just because of their age and their dependency status, basically. So the baby, I personally I like to see little kids on tablets. That bothers me, because I feel like it's a way of parents like slapping something in front of their face and kind of being like, "Don't bother me." In some ways, and I don't want to, I want to go ahead and put out a disclaimer for any parents, because we know parents be like, "Well, you don't know this situation," and okay, I know, we know. I don't have children. I'm a childless woman, and that's by choice, and that's by design. So I know every situation I don't know every situation. So please take that with a grain of salt. I'm speaking purely theoretically here, okay? Do what you want to do with your kids. Okay. That's just number one, because parents, that's one thing people get really testy about with their kids.
Seriously.
And people critiquing their parenting styles. But
yes.
I personally, I don't like the idea of my kid walking around with a tablet, just because I do feel like it's more, it already gets them acclimated to the scroll and the what's out here, and the like kind of instant gratification of a screen in front of them. So I don't like that. Agreed. Now, yes, I would let my child watch TV, watch films. Like, I'm not going to keep them totally away from culture, just totally, because I think user correction is also a problem. Because we do live in the real world. But I don't like the idea of my kid running around with a tablet. Just don't like it. Don't like to see little kids with it. Kids be 2 and 3 years old. Where's my tablet, Mom? Like,
or like, can't go nowhere without it.
Yeah, I can't go nowhere without it. And the parents like, it's over there, and it like, shuts the kid up for 15 minutes, and they start doing something else again. But like,
and not because I'm gonna give that disclaimer again. I'm not a parent, but I have had children in my care for a period of time, right? And what I noticed was the children. One of the kids came with a tablet, and for the most part, we didn't use the tablet. Like, a lot of the time, the tablet no longer became entertaining to her, because she had her brother, and she had toys, and we would play with them often. We would take her to the park. We would take her to the library. Like, we were doing things, and we were talking to them. And so there was really no need for a tablet. Though they had a tablet, they were not heavily reliant on the tablet, for one, and they really didn't even care about the tablet, right?
Yeah.
And so I find that it is a lot of times the tablet is there for the parent to get what they need to get accomplished, and not necessarily for the betterment of the child per se, which I know like every parenting situation is different. Like, if obviously if you're like a single parent, like that just may be what you need to help you get through, because you just need a moment or whatever. But I think there's not having a tablet and having a room where you can just play with your toys. Like, it doesn't have to involve a tablet. So, I definitely agree with you.
Also, it's different too because kids today, when they go to school, they're going to see that other kids' parents are giving them tablets. So there's this idea of like, oh, it's out there and like so and so has it, and like that's natural for a little kid to just want what other little kids have. So I'm not blaming the child, but like for us, there was no such thing as a tablet.
Agreed.
When we wanted something that somebody else had, it was a physical toy.
Yeah.
And we had to like
we had technology
things. Like I hate to be that person like back in my day, but like for real, back in our day, we really played with toys.
Yeah, we went outside, like legit. Like I remember, like we used to go to the park. You know what I mean? We used to play with our toys. We didn't really have like we grew up, especially the early parts of our life. You had those desktop computers, those big old desktop computers that were mad heavy. Like you didn't have the option to have a tablet. You had to have those big old computers, and then you had to do the dial up and whatnot. So like it was just like go outside and play, bro. And I was cool with that. You know what I mean? Like I really think that's important to. I do think like obviously it depends on the environment that you're in, but I do think that having that natural nature to explore things, figure out things, learn natural consequences and whatnot is very important because first of all, that teaches you, like Courtney said, the dependency on the tablet, the scroll method at age of 2. It teaches you, dependency on the tablet. It also, I think, creates a disconnect between whoever the caretaker is in communicating. If you're constantly relying on a tablet, how is your child going to know how to communicate? How are they going to know to explore different things about like what they're feeling, what they're not feeling, what they want, what they don't want, when a tablet's constantly shoving information to them? Mm-hmm. Mind you, a lot of times you can censor some level of the information that they're receiving, but kids are crafty, okay? They're nifty. They will find a way to get what they want. Mm-hmm. And so you're just giving them a little computer, you know what I mean? Even like things like, I've seen like people have hacked different, like I don't know if it was a tablet, but like cameras and things that kids had access to, and people were like talking to the children and like giving information away. Like I just think that like that is just a realm that I wouldn't want to enter into. So I agree with you. And like a 5-year-old for me will not have a tablet in my home. And if there is a tablet,
anything, you're not having. I mean, you're gonna go to school, come home, mm-hmm. like you're still a baby at that point.
Yeah.
So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not.
And if we do have tablets, if I ever have a kid and I have a tablet, it will not be used very frequently.
Yeah.
At all. Like it would be like maybe like you get this as a treat for, I don't know, doing something for the week, or even that I don't even like. So
like the parents have 3 kids and each one of them got a tablet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're gonna have one tablet for the house.
The parents' tablet, it's the kid's tablet. It's like they bought that specific kid
for the kid. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know they have special kid tablets where it's like, oh, you can only go to this app or do this. And I get that. And I know that there's concerted effort to monitor what children are watching and how they're watching and how they're doing it. So I don't think those are negative things, but I think it's rooted still in the fact that like they're dependent on this sort of like screen.
I wonder what like the long-term effects are on children who are always on tablets, like the long-term.
It hasn't been studied yet, I imagine. Probably not. I mean, or it's very much in its infancy stages because like the kids, the first generation of tablet kids is what, maybe 10 or 11. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So there has been, I guess, like a little dive into it, but according to my Google search quickly, it says toddlers who frequently play on tablets or phones are at a higher risk of problems such as hyperactivity, poor concentration, and friendship issues.
I can see that.
That's based off a study.
This would be good to talk to mom because so much of her, really her life's work has been like discussing early childhood education development, which we don't put enough. If I could just plug my mom's work, like honestly, we don't put enough effort into that just in general. Even before tablets, people were really dismissive of that area of your life. That's where your core personality, core skills, core everything happens before you're like 5 or 6 years old. And so imagine that is being, it was warped before because I don't think we really totally had it right before, but like now it's specifically warped because like you're relying on this screen for information, and rather than building like the social connections, it's like, if you honestly, I hate to like make this comparison, but it's like when you put puppies in a kennel together, or like in a thing to play together, that's very different than if you isolated the puppy and basically try to get them to entertain themselves. It's like there's certain social skills that the puppy is learning by being in group 4 or 5.
Yeah, or like if you take a puppy and you put it in, an environment with older cats, it's going to pick up what it's around.
Yeah,
it's going to have a lot of cat-like behaviors or mannerism that a normal dog may not have. Although it has some instinctual behaviors that it comes with because it's a dog, it's going to pick up on its environment more or less on certain things that the cat would do.
That, yeah. And then also, like you were saying, those social and emotional skills and managing that is going to carry you through life. That's stuff that like that's not really a 5-year-old, just a 5-year-old skill to have. That's that's a 10-year-old skill, 15, that's an adult skill. Okay, so
that's an adult
when they get to when they get to our age and we're like, why are you having adult tantrums? It's like, they missed out on this when they were 5. And I'm not blaming it totally on the tablet, but if you're not also reinforcing and encouraging if you're using the tablet in place of actual learn life skills, emotional skills, your child gets to our age and is like, cannot function.
Yeah, it looks
and we run into non-functional adults all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And honestly, it's sort of a selfish thing because it makes life difficult for the people who have to exist around them. You know what I mean?
Seriously. Yeah. And I think, like, let's be honest, in the real world, there's so much more that you have to do in life than just sit on a screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a portion possibly of life. But like, cooking and cleaning, I'm talking like paying bills, just the basic things of life, going to the grocery store, taking care of like animals, pets and whatnot. Those are things I feel like possibly could learn through a game, but more than likely it would be more
simulation. But again, the simulation, and like, honestly, I would just rather have my child like actually do those things, And I know it's difficult to put your kid in like this activity and that, and you don't want to just overload your kid with stuff, but like, I would just encourage them, like you said, like, okay, well, maybe we can do a puzzle, or maybe we can do this, or maybe we can do that, And like, to be honest, I hate to say this, part of it is the parenting. Is like, you have to actually sit down with your child and do these things. Build a relationship. I'm not trying to like come down on parents, and I'm not saying the tablet just removed it takes away all of your parenting, and maybe you do both. I don't know, but like, if you're using the tablet in place of building a connection with your child, like, your child is going to be missing key important social interactions. Like, there were so many times, I think, when we were kids, like, mom would just get on the floor with us and have conversations with us.
Oh, all the time.
She would just get on our level and sit with us and talk to us like we were adults. Obviously, we were kids, but like, she would interact with us on that level. She obviously had adult time and stuff like that, but like, she interacted with us, and that helped us to gain emotional, social skills.
Agreed. No, I agree. Yeah, she took the time to like communicate with us. Yeah, she took the time to communicate with us. Well, obviously, like, we didn't have tablets at that time, but to communicate with us and hang out with us, spend time with us, build a bond with us. And like, from those types of situations, we were able to learn, a lot about ourselves, emotions, explore those emotions, communicate our emotions, even build relationships with people, each other, and like our mom, for example. Granted, me and Courtney are twins, so there's other factors that go into that. But I think it really did us a solid. I really do.
Well, it established her as obviously the parental figure, but also as somebody who was like a trusted, like, friend adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just like, and you learn so much during just those interactions with our mother. You know what I mean? That, honestly, I'm gonna be perfectly honest, our father did not do that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there was a stark difference in that, and I'm not even just trying to like get on. Well, I mean, I guess I am. He was not. There was really rarely ever a time that if we were quote interacting or bonding with him, it was always an authoritarian. This is what we're doing because I say we're doing it, and you just exist in whatever I say we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of he never got on our level. It was always y'all go do either you go do this and I'm gonna do this, or y'all come do what I say to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a marked difference between our relationship now with him and the relationship with our mother.
Yeah, and he still tries to maintain that. So
he still tries to maintain an authoritarian type. You know what I mean? And that's not even. We didn't even have tablets at the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But we did have our little iPods, which those were amazing.
Yeah, and he at times tried to throw off stuff on that, and like even be like, "Oh, just go watch TV or just go to like." He tried to throw things off, oftentimes, instead of actually building and bonding with your children. That's another conversation, but like
yeah, and you know, like the basic things from just like communicating to your child, like he just didn't know because he didn't take the time to first of all get to know us or hang out with us or see what we liked, what we didn't like, or know our middle names, for example, like just basic things.
Yeah,
just basic things.
He didn't, and like, and that's why like that you're not a father at that point. Yeah. You're in some ways you're a
sperm donor.
You're a sperm donor. You're keeping your children captive.
Yeah.
And to relate this back to technology, I'm not saying everybody's got to be as distant and problematic as our father, but if you continue to throw things off on a tablet, your behavior starts to mimic that.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not connecting with your child. Your child doesn't know you. You don't know your child. You know what I mean?
Seriously. Okay, so quickly, before we like wrap up, what would you do about the 10-year-old and the 16-year-old?
Yeah. Okay, so 10-year-old, they're a little bit older. They're a little more aware. I would let the 10-year-old have a phone with with probably most restrictions. And only because they're aware enough to like, they're probably like going to birthday parties or whatever, and I would want them to be able to get in contact with me.
So are we getting like a flip phone, iPhone? What are we getting?
We're getting I mean, you know me, I started on the flip phone, but I just think I think we're a little bit too advanced for a flip phone.
Really? I'm not gonna lie. I would get my kid a flip phone at 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting you a flip phone.
You're gonna get clowned in middle school. I
mean, I would like really try to explain it to you that they understand, I guess. But I need them to understand that social media, I want you to have a foundation outside of social media before you get social media. And so I think that having a flip phone is the best way to do that. And we can stay in constant communication to see where you are, to upgrade you to maybe an iPhone and things like that. But I think also too that I need to know that I can trust you. If we're not going to allow social media, that you're not using social media. That means even on your friend's phone. That means even on your aunt's phone, anybody's phone, right? And that's not to say that, like, say you're on, like, I wouldn't, like, I know kids are going to be kids. So if their friends are on social media, like, they're going to want to look and do their thing. But I need to know that I can trust you and that you're going to be an individual, that you're going to be, right from wrong. That social media is not the end all be all. And, like, you need to have your own hopes and dreams and things like that. And I just feel like at 10 years old, that foundation is not set yet.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I wish there was like a hybrid where like I just don't want them to be totally like archaic in the sense of like, okay, like, well, as long as they have like texting and calling.
Yeah, as long as like you can stay in communication with your friends or whatever, like I don't really see the big deal. The only thing that is preventing you from having all these apps, and which is usually access to social media.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay.
All right, and then quickly, the 16-year-old.
I think like at 10 years old, like you could handle like watching YouTube videos, or like if you wanted to watch something on like Netflix or something like that, I can see why a screen, like they could have a screen in order to.
Yeah, but you can watch it in the house on the TV.
That's true, but I guess I don't know. I'm thinking about like if they're like out somewhere. I wouldn't want to like remove them from like, okay, so what if their interest was like me? Like I would have been, if I would have had streaming services, I would have been just watching Who's the Boss. or whatever.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if that's something that you're into, then we can talk about like, okay, how do we make sure that you have the things that you're interested in, as well as not protecting, but like you making sure that you have the foundation of life down too. It's like, even if the 10-year-old is 10 and a half and they're like, you know what, mom, I feel like I'm ready for social media. I'm ready for a phone that has flip phones and all those things like that. And we have an open line of communication. Let's give it a try. I'm cool giving it a try, but I want you to know that
like monitor to me. It's like, I would let you have a smartphone, but it would just be like monitor, and I would have to know my child. I think another issue is, unfortunately, is a lot of people don't know their kid and then be like, why did Johnny do X, Y, Z? Well, if you were really honest with yourself about Johnny, you would have seen Johnny was headed for disaster. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think also too is that social media portrays one image of your child while your child may present another image, because that's what social media allows you to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that like your child, because they're in a phase of like not really knowing themselves yet, that can become the identity that they create on social media can become consuming. So you have to be careful.
I agree.
And so, I don't know. I just feel like 10 is just too young.
Yeah,
like the 16-year-old. Okay, cool. In a way, but like, I don't know about a 10-year-old.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, I agree. I guess I would rather them not be on like interactive social media, meaning like they can talk to people, I guess, on social media, like Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing. I wouldn't want them to be on that. But if it was like, they're watching YouTube videos on like how to build trains or how to like little train sets, or like, maybe my daughter is into makeup or something and she's watching some makeup videos or something. Like, I would want to keep them, because that's when I first started really developing like outside interest around that age. And if it was like, that's when I figured out kind of like, oh, well, I really do like, sitcoms and comedy and all, like, or like I like films and that kind of thing. So like, it was good that I was exposed to that, because so much of my knowledge now goes back to like 10, so I wouldn't want to potentially cut them off from an area of interest. Obviously, I want to monitor it.
I just feel like there's so many other ways to explore your areas of interest. Like, you don't need social media to do that. So
I don't think you have to have like Facebook and Instagram to do that. And obviously, I prefer you do those in physical form, but but yeah, okay. So what about the 16-year-old?
Okay, so 16-year-old, I would allow them to have probably a iPhone by then, or Galaxy, whatever they want. But I would,
Not a Galaxy.
Whatever the kids are going to be into, who knows? But what I would do is I would allow them to have social media, but I would just follow and kind of like monitor if anything. And I think continue to have an open line of communication. I'm not going to tell you what you can and cannot post. And the reason why I'm not is because you as an adult have to know what you can and cannot post and how that represents you. And so I'm not going to be hounding you about, what you can and cannot post. You should know better at this point, for one. And for two, you should, obviously you're at 16, you're probably still figuring things out, but you should have a basic understanding of, if this is going to be on social media, this is going to follow me 10 years down the road. So if I don't want this, showing of me 10 years down the road, or if I don't want my future, whoever, boss, husband, wife, child to see it, then I suggest you not post it. So.
Yep,
that's how I would do that.
I think, honestly, I mean, I agree with that too. I think by 16, you probably have a smartphone and like you have Instagram and probably social media accounts. And I would obviously like make them aware of the dangers of like, of that environment, being in that environment, and kind of how it's being perceived, and like, just make them aware of their consequences of their actions, but also kind of monitoring it. I mean, I wouldn't want to be overbearing in the sense of like, I'm just watching everything you do, but like, kind of just monitor it slightly. Know your kid and know how much you need to monitor. Because I feel like mom didn't really have to monitor us too much, because like we weren't the type of kids to be doing weird stuff on the internet.
For sure. But mom was very big on like consequences. Like, mom didn't have to tell us too much about what we could and could not post. She would be like, post it, go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
Just know that that's going to be on there for 10 years down the road. You got to deal with that, not me.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to like, how are you raising your children core wise?
Yeah.
And then incorporate, we live in a social media world, so I think it's wrong to try to avoid it totally, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Agreed. And I think it's also ignorant to be like, oh, my kid's not going to touch social media if you don't get them a phone. Like, baby, they're going to go to school, okay? Exactly. They're going to school. Their friends are probably going to have phones. So
yeah, it's like sometimes like it's getting to a point where assignments and stuff are being assigned over the internet. Like things are really becoming just a social media world. So and
schools they freaking supply tablets to the dang elementary students these days.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you cannot. I think trying to just like escape it is like pointless, But I think if a 16-year-old can probably handle it more and just know your child. And obviously, if your child is a little more on edge and there's like more issues coming up with social media, then yeah, like restrict it more. You know what I mean? Like, truth is, there's 25-year-olds who need Instagram restricted.
Oh, like,
I don't know if it's
the cows need to be banned. Okay,
for real. So, and there's whole adults who spew hate on the internet all the time, and like they shouldn't be. Somebody should monitor that too. So I don't. Seriously. It's not so much an age thing. It's like the person and like what's their core values and how do they incorporate that into their lives. So yeah, that's what I think about. At 16, you're getting more into you're almost an adult at that point. So I want to allow you the freedom to make some decisions while also just keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, the goal is not to cripple you. The goal is for you to learn how to navigate being an adult. And I think the moral in a lot of this at the end of the day is like not parenting for today's satisfaction or today's be quiet or whatever. It's really about instilling the core principles and values and decision-making skills, critical thinking skills, so that your kid can go out in the world and make solid decisions for themselves. That is the bigger purpose here. So oftentimes, like obviously like a 5-year-old is probably not ready because they don't have the ability to do that. If your 5-year-old shows that they're ready for a tablet, then cool. If your 10-year-old shows that they're ready, cool. But that from typically communicating with your kid, but throwing an iPad or a tablet right in their face from the get-go, you kind of prevent that, I think.
Agreed. I mean, we just didn't live in an era where that was an option. So I think we ended up having, that was not really a concern so much parenting wise. But what has maintained despite that is the core parenting values that were instilled regardless. Like, like we were saying at the top of this episode, we don't really use social media outside of like the platform that it provides. It's not it's not used negatively. At least I would hope it doesn't come off negatively towards other people, and that's not my intention, but we use it very sparingly or for specific purposes. We'll say that.
Yeah.
Which has more to do with core. It's what you make of it. It's really what you make of it. And I think the way social media has gone now is a reflection of lack of parenting for some people or lack of character, morals, whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, but we will be taking a social media detox, probably for the next month, if not the foreseeable future. And I'm happy to be doing that. So
same. Which I'll still be posting on the CaCo Talks Instagram, but that'll be scheduled. So no fears there.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a good episode. We hope we encourage you to consider your social media usage while we were discussing and help you think about some things just as it relates to this massive social media culture that we live in now. So
thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching or listening.
Or listening, yeah. And watching if you watch it on YouTube.
Oh, yes, if you watch on YouTube.
Bye, guys.